Chapter 17. The boy's neck bent in an odd way, and his body fell limp. Freshman year in college. Man, this is like living in another country, Ramick said to George and Sampson as they crossed the green lawn of Seton Hall University early in their freshman year. Yeah, I feel you, George replied. Hundreds and hundreds of students, most of them white, seemed to surround them constantly. I feel like a rock in a snowstorm, completely covered up. Some of the students are pretty cool, Sampson commented. They smile, they're friendly, they even invite us to study groups. It's just that there's so many of them. Yeah, man, it's hard to get used to, Ramick said with feeling. I remember white sales clerks following me around stores, looking at me as if I was going to steal something. And little old white ladies hugging their purses when I sat next to them on the bus or subway, George added. Or white police officers stopping me when I hadn't done anything, Sampson reflected. It's just hard to get used to feeling normal around here. It's going to take some time, George commented. I suppose they have to get used to us, too, he said with a chuckle. The three of them shrugged and headed off to their various classes, which they loved. The preparation of summer program had really helped, and they felt secure in their ability to do the academic work. The social aspect of living in the college atmosphere was a little more difficult, however. One afternoon, Ramick and a couple of cousins who were visiting him got into a loud and silly argument in the dorm hallway. Students came out of their rooms, curious to see what the commotion was all about. Ramick, embarrassed by all the attention from a crowd of noisy students, reacted with anger instead of restraint. What y'all looking at? We just have had a little disagreement. Go on back to where you came from. Most of the students disappeared back into their dorm room, not wanting to antagonize Ramick any further. But just 2 students remained. Didn't you hear what I said? Ramick yelled in his loudest, most intimidating voice. Get out of the hallway now. I live here too, one of the students replied, an arrogant smirk on his face. You can't make me leave. I don't want to. Ramick couldn't believe his ears. How dare the college boy challenge him in front of his cousins? What did you say? Ramick asked the student in disbelief. Where Ramick came from, a challenge had to be answered. The result was never pretty. The young man, who looked completely unafraid of Ramick and his threats, repeated, I'm not going anywhere. I have just as much right to be in this hallway as you do. Even though he knew the student was right, Ramick felt his anger rise uncontrollably. He walked over to the boy and said right to his face, I'm counting to 3. If you don't leave, you're going to wish you had. The student laughed and said to his friend, He's trying to threaten me. Ha! Like I care. Ramick had reached the boiling point. 1, he said, slowly and ominously. 2, he continued, a harsh threat in his voice. 3, he said finally. Ramick was pulsing with rage. The bold and seemingly unafraid student did not budge. He just stared at Ramick with a confident look of challenge on his face. Ramick, no longer able to control his anger, picked up the student, raised him over his head, then slammed him to the floor, head first. The boy's neck bent in an odd way, and his body fell limp. Terrified, Ramick's anger dissipated. Oh my God, I've killed him, he thought. Growing up, Ramick had been taught to fight when he was disrespected, to stand up for himself, even if it meant reacting violently. But Ramick knew he had crossed the line in this situation. Then the boy moaned and moved on the floor. His friend helped him up and back to his room. The dorm hallway was completely empty now and eerily quiet. Back in his room, Ramick prayed silently, repenting but unable to change what had happened. He waited, and at 4 a.m., the police knocked on his door and took him to an office on the first floor of the dorm. In his mind, he watched his scholarship and his dreams disappear. All his work and struggle to overcome obstacles would be gone like a wisp of wind through the trees. In addition to the police, members of the administration, the students, and his mother sat in the room, all looking at Ramick with accusation and disgust. Ramick's heart sank. Is this the guy who assaulted you? The officer asked the student. Yes, sir, the young man replied quietly. His arrogance had disappeared along with Ramick's anger. Do you wish to press charges? The officer asked him and his mother. The mother paused and peered at Ramick. He looked at the floor, ashamed and embarrassed, and angry at himself for losing control. Then she spoke. No, officer, we don't want to press charges. Ramick's head shot up in disbelief. You don't? He whispered. The mother said nothing else. Perhaps she knew he would be kicked out of school Perhaps she saw potential in Ramek's eyes, but for reasons he would never know, she gave him a second chance. Too shocked even to find the words to thank her, Ramek was allowed to return to his room. He still had to face a hearing of school officials, however, and amazingly, they too chose mercy and only put him on probation. What was even more surprising was that the white students he barely knew came to his aid. One offered the help of his father, who was a lawyer. Another offered to write a letter of support. Ramek was amazed and humbled, vowing never again to judge anyone just by race. Ramek did his best to stay out of trouble for the next few months, yet he still felt restless and incomplete. You know, he told Samson and George one day, of all the dudes I used to hang out with in Plainfield, only 3 of us graduated from high school, and I'm the only one in college. Yeah, same with my friends, and it's not like they were dumb. The possibilities of making it just seemed so far away, George replied with a nod. I had never even seen a college campus until I got here, Samson admitted. It was like going to Mars, something completely out of reach, and not even worth thinking about. We ought to do something about that, Ramek answered with enthusiasm. There are little dudes on the street right now, just like we were, sitting on some corner, about to get into trouble. Why can't we find them and show them the other side of the world? George and Samson responded with excitement, the 3 of them trying to figure out a way they could reach out and help some kids and perhaps make a difference in their lives. Let's form a club. No, an organization that reaches out to kids in the community, Samson suggested. What should we call it? George asked. How about Ujima? Ramek answered immediately. Ujima is Swahili, means collective work and responsibility to the community. It's one of the 3 principles of Kwanzaa. Perfect, the other 2 agreed. Over the next few weeks, in between going to classes, studying for tests, and doing extensive work in lab classes, Ramek, George, and Samson made the plans, found a faculty supervisor, and convinced the Student Government Association of the university to grant them permission to operate this new organization. Of course, they had no money to work with, so they brainstormed ways to raise money quickly and easily and still have fun in the process. Let's throw a party. Tight. We can call it Ujima Jam and invite kids from all over the neighboring colleges, Ramek added. The party was a rousing success. The music was loud and the DJ was cool. The $5 admission fee was for each partygoer, added to the treasury of the new-founded help organization. It was the first of several such dances, which became favorite events on campus. After they had enough money to work with, Ramek, George, and Samson approached several elementary schools in Newark to try to arrange student field trips to the campus. It proved to be a bit more difficult than they had anticipated because of liability and transportation issues, but they did end up working with a couple of schools from Brooklyn. The kids came to the campus wide-eyed and amazed. Ujima brought them lunch, took them on a tour of the campus, and answered their questions. Is college hard? One boy asked. It's no harder than high school, Ramek told them, but there's a lot more work to do. If you study and do your homework, it's really pretty easy. Does it cost a lot of money to go here? A little girl wanted to know. Yes, it does, George told her, but anybody who really wants to go to college can go. There are scholarships and loans and work programs available. You have to be willing to work hard and find the solutions to make it happen. You sleep here at night? Another child asked timidly. Yes, we live in a dormitory and only go home on the weekend. But lots of students live at home and come here every day, on the bus or by car. You do what works best for you, Samson explained. But it's fun living here because there are fewer distractions. It's easier, for me at least, to study here than at home. One little boy, who had remained silent and looked bored, finally raised his hand. You have a question? Ramek asked him. No, I just think of all this is stupid. I don't need to go to no college. I'm going to get rich selling drugs. He looked at Ramek, George, and Samson defiantly. The boy's friend, taking courage from his buddy, spoke up next. And I don't need to go to college either. I'm going to play for the NBA and make millions of dollars. The rest of the students seemed to consider these two with admiration. Ramek looked at them and smiled. Well, me and my 2 friends here, We're going to be doctors. And when some drug dealer shoots you, he said to the first boy, or when you trip on the basketball court and break your leg, he said to the second boy, and that's assuming the NBA decides to take your little short behind, we'll be standing there in the hospital waiting to take care of you. We'll be the ones getting paid, and you'll be forgotten leftovers. The two boys scowled but said nothing. The other kids nodded with approval. You can have a future and with meaning and respect and possibility, George added. That's what college can do for you. Don't be afraid to dream beyond what you see on the streets every day. All right, conversation with Dr. Ramik Hunt. The end of violence and the start of giving back. I had to learn control. By no means did I want to forget where I came from or lose my culture. I just needed to modify my behavior. I had to learn to face a challenge without a violent reaction. Actually, that student was right, and I was very wrong. The solution had nothing to do with race. It was a learned reaction to the stimulus of physical challenge. I was behaving the only way I knew how. I had never been exposed to anything else. I gradually learned to discipline myself so that I could deal with challenges with my mind instead of my fists. I will always be grateful for the student and his mother who chose understanding instead of retribution. They gave me the chance to continue my dreams. Most of the kids I grew up with didn't dream big. People would tell me that college was hard, that it wasn't for people from our neighborhoods. It wasn't until I got to Seton Hall that I realized that there were lots that they were saying was not true. The funny thing about it was that the people who were spreading that lie never stood foot on a college campus. That's why it was important for us to figure out how to expose the kids from our neighborhood to college. So we came up with Ujima. The name fits perfectly. It meant collective work and responsibility, and that's what it really was all about, helping your neighborhood. I learned the term from a book about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. The same book talked about the importance of catching our children while they are young, before they have a chance to go down the wrong road. Lots of people contributed to helping me. I felt very strongly that I needed to give back by helping the next generation. I still do.